In Christian music, a passion is a setting of the Passion of Christ. Liturgically, most passions were intended to be performed as part of church services in the Holy Week. Passion settings developed from intoned readings of the Gospel texts relating Christ's Passion since medieval times, to which later polyphonic settings were added. Passion plays, another tradition that originated in the Middle Ages, could be provided with music such as hymns, contributing to Passion as a genre in music. While in Catholicism the musical development of tenebrae services became more pronounced than that of Passion settings, Passion cantatas, and later Passions in oratorio format, most often performed on Good Friday, became a focal point in Holy Week services in Protestantism. Its best-known examples, such as Bach's Passion settings, date from the first half of the 18th century. Later musical settings of the Passion of Christ, such as the Jesus Christ Superstar rock opera, or Arvo Part's Passio, refer to these earlier Christian traditions in varying degree. History. The reading of the Passion from one of the Gospels during Holy Week dates back at least to the 4th century and is described by Egeria. In the 5th century, Pope Leo the Great specified that the Gospel of Matthew be used on Palm Sunday and the following Wednesday, and that of John on Good Friday. By the 10th century, Luke replaced Matthew on Wednesday and Mark was added on Tuesday. The Passion began to be intoned in the Middle Ages, at least as early as the 8th century. 9th century manuscripts have literary significatively indicating interpretive chant, and later manuscripts begin to specify exact notes to be sung. By the 13th century, different singers were used for different characters in the narrative, a practice which became fairly universal by the 15th century, when polyphonic settings of the turbo passages began to appear also. The formula of the present gradual Romanum was the most widespread, with Christ singing in the lowest register and synagogues singing higher than the evangelist narrator. In Spain, a laden tone with the evangelist's part recto tono was used in Castile, and a serragasam tone with the bass evangelist on a florid tenor. Christus was used in much of Aragon, where the Roman tone also had a foothold in Valencia. In the later 15th century, a number of new styles began to emerge. Responsorial passions, in which the narration is chanted but the turbo parts and sometimes Christ's words are set polyphonically. Through composed passions, also called motet passions, in which all text is set polyphonically. The earliest extant example of this type is sometimes attributed to Jacob Obrecht. Summa Passioni settings, drawing on all four Gospels. These were never incorporated into the liturgy of the Church use but circulated widely nonetheless. The 7 last words are included in this category. Roman Catholic music. In the 16th century, many settings, chiefly of the responsorial type, were written by William Byrd, Jacobus Gallus, Francisco Guerrero, Orlando di Lasso, Cipriano de Rori and Victoria. In Roman Catholicism, settings of the Tenebrae service, however, became the leading format for music to commemorate Christ's Passion and death during Holy Week, with, for example, Lecin's Tenebris, Tenebrae Responsories, and settings of the Miserere Psalm. Notable examples of such music, like Giuldo's Tenebrae Responsoria, are sometimes characterized as a passion in all but name. A later development of the Catholic Passion was the reflective Passion oratorio, such as Metastasia's Italian libretto La Passione di Gesù Cristo, set by Caldara, Salieri and many other composers between 1730 and 1812. Latin passions continued in parallel with the style of Metastasia, often set by minor composers such as little-known Carlo Sturla, music master at the convent of Santa Brigia, who also set a Latin passion in 18th century operatic style, Passio di Venerdì Santo, for the oratory of St. Philip Neri in Genoa in 1736. Protestant music. Martin Luther wrote, "The Passion of Christ should not be acted out in words and pretense, but in real life." Luther felt that elaborate polyphony would distract from the importance of the sacred Passion text. Despite this, sung Passion performances were common in Lutheran churches right from the start, in both Latin and German, beginning as early as Latter Sunday and continuing through Holy Week. Luther's friend and collaborator Johann Walther wrote responsorial passions which were used as models by Lutheran composers for centuries, and Summa Passionis versions continued to circulate, despite Luther's expressed disapproval. Later 16th-century passions by G. M. Assola, Samuel Besler, William Byrd, Leonard Lechner, and Jacob Myland included choral, exordium, and conclusio sections with additional secular texts. Thomas Strutz wrote a passion with arias for Jesus himself, pointing to the standard oratorio tradition of Schutz and Carissimi. The practice of using recitative for the evangelist was a development of court composers in northern Germany, such as Johann Mieder and Schutz, and only crept into church compositions at the end of the 17th century. The recitative was used for dramatic expression. In the 17th century came the development of oratorio passions, which led to J.S. Bach's passions, accompanied by instruments, with interpolated instrumental interludes or with interpolated texts such as other scripture passages, Latin motets, chorale arias, and more. Such settings were created by Bartholomäus Gesius and Heinrich Schutz. The best-known Protestant musical settings of the Passion are by Johann Sebastian Bach, who, according to his obituary, wrote 5 passions in his lifetime. 2 have survived to the present day. One based on the Gospel of John, the other on the Gospel of Matthew. Additionally, a libretto for the St. Mark's Passion survives. Although Bach's settings are now among the most popular passions today, they were rarely performed during his lifetime. The Passion continued to be very popular in Protestant Germany in the 18th century, with Bach's second son Carl Philipp Emanuel composing over 20 settings. Major composers of passions included Grant, Telemann, Reinhard Geisser, Stölzl, Matheson and Handel, these last 5 also composing Broca's passions after the text of Barthold Heinrich Broca's Romantic and Modern Music. In the 19th century, passion settings were less popular. Some examples of such works are the Oratorio Christus by Felix Mendelssohn, Das Synopfer des Neuen Bundes and Kleine Passion music of Carl Loewe, Les Sept Paroles du Christ of César Franck, John Steiner's The Crucifixion, Die Passion of Heinrich von Herzogenburg, and Christus, Mysterium in a Prelude and 3 oratorios by Felix Draeseke. However, in the 20th century, they have again come into fashion. 2 notable settings are the St. Luke Passion by Polish composer Krzysztof Penderecki and the Passio by Estonian composer Arvo Pärt. Another is the Passion music nach dem Lukas Evangelium of Rudolf Mauersberger. In 2000, Helmut Rilling and the International Bach Academy commissioned 4 modern composers to compose passions on the 4 Gospels. Matthew was allocated to Tandun Water Passion after St. Matthew, Mark to Osvaldo Golijov, La Passion según San Marcos, Luke to Wolfgang Ihm, Deus Passis, and John de Sophia Gurbidulina, St. John Passion. Examples. See also Passion Cantata St. John Passion by Johann Sebastian Bach. St. Matthew Passion by Johann Sebastian Bach. St. Luke Passion of Penderecki. Passio Domini Nostri Jesu Christi Secundum Joannem of Arvo Pärt. More recent examples include the Passion according to St. Matthew by Mark Alberger, and the Passion according to the 4 Evangelists by Scott King, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Jesus Christ Superstar, and Stephen Schwartz's Godspell. Both contain elements of the traditional Passion accounts. Peter Gabriel's score to Martin Scorsese's 1988 film The Last Temptation of Christ was released as an album under the title Passion. Music for The Last Temptation of Christ. A relative of the musical Passion is the custom of setting the text of Stabat Mater to music.